him.
Yeah, that would have slipped at some point. If it slipped like that, it would have slipped
in the future.
Yeah, in the future at some point.
I find that perfectly reasonable, and honestly, I'm surprised that like you wouldn't make that mistake more often. Like John Connor must have spent a long time just like I can't tell him. But like honestly, I kind of already haven't told him, most likely. So maybe I can tell him. What if I walk up to him with the intention of telling him? Will something interrupt me? And he like got like, and he's like, all right, come on. Predestination. I'm gonna walk down this hallway and I'm gonna tell Kyle that he's my father. And then his wife comes in and is like, hey, we're out of salt. And he's like, told you, time travel, predestination paradoxes.
That is exactly what I want to see in that John Connor movie you're talking about, Max. Just playing with the predestination, stopping him from telling Kyle reasons.
Bro, I'm not kidding. I love the idea of a very insular Terminator movie that is just John Connor dealing with the idea of predestination.
Excellent.
Well, lowest point in the franchise, yes or no? When they get arrested and they play bad boys.
Oh, yeah, that was not necessary.
Face palm inducing.
That was not necessary.
Lowest point in the franchise is in Terminator 3 when John Connor asks the Terminator, "You don't remember me?"
Yes. I feel exactly the same way. We were talking about it with Mike. He said that he thought the same way I did. That is the dumbest thing in the world.
No,
he is the one person who knows what this is all about.
It's clear that John Connor in Terminator 3 is some sort of moron. Like something like there must be multiple timelines because like the something went wrong with the gene combination there and resulted in that John Connor being an idiot.
Oh my gosh, good point there. Yeah, but it's tied with that.
Awesome.
To me. Well,
we've covered quite a bit on this so far. I think we've pretty much touched everything. I mean, we haven't touched everything, but we've covered a lot, and this has been a pretty fascinating discussion on this film. Max, is there anything else that we haven't addressed that you'd like to talk about? Something that we missed?
In order to justify the line of dialogue that Arnold gives about the nexus point in the time stream in the quantum field, my feeling is that he is lying and making up that nonsense on the spot because that Terminator has been programmed with the knowledge that he is in a movie and that he has to just get past this scene. So he is giving some technobabble nonsense because he knows that the dumb characters in the scene that he is with will go, fine, whatever he said, I guess. Okay, let's move on to the other problem at hand. And so I definitely have played the fourth wall card in order to get past that moment.
How is that different from any other technobabble in Star Trek?
It's not.
But he's not. It's not Star Trek. He's not Data. He's not a scientist. He's an assassination robot. He shouldn't know about quantum physics and stuff like that. It's BS.
He's a time traveling robot.
Damn time traveling robot.
But the logic behind it doesn't make sense. The only explanation for Kyle having knowledge of a timeline that he is not from is fourth wall. That he has traveled back in time into a movie that takes place after Judgment Day. He is like the movie was made long after August 29th, 1997. So he is traveling back in time in an alternate timeline movie. And that's why he's able to remember his own past.
So we've got the Terminator timeline and the Terminator movie timeline.
Yes.
Like
sometimes you've got to play what I call fourth wall Monty in order to make movies and TV shows work.
Well, at least Pops is not a jerk like Geordie LaForge is.
Yes, Geordie LaForge is a jerk. Very much so.
Zach, is there anything we haven't talked about that you'd like to address?
Just rapid fire real quick for me. Bullet points. I'll just run through these. The Photoshop picture of Sarah Connor, Emilia Clarke as the Sarah Connor in the first Terminator, some of the worst Photoshop I've ever seen. She has no chin or something in that picture. It's a horrible picture. If I were Kyle Reese, I would not fall in love with it. I'd be like, bro, your mom looks messed up. Things I did like, though. I did like some of the comedy, especially a couple of one-liners from Arnold, where, he finally gets him from the police station. Like, where were you? He's like, stuck in traffic. I found that amusing. Also, when they're talking about how he helped build the Cyberdyne, time displacement equipment chamber. He's like, I was laid off.
Yes.
Funny. I don't know why.
That's a great line. I was laid off. Yes.
And then finally, what were they trying to say when he looks at her and he says, I'll be back? And then she says, oh, what? Like, it's like they're trying to laugh with you, but also like, yeah, we know she doesn't understand what it is. So that's funny too. Like, I didn't get that.
I think that what they were going for was much more like a literal, straight ahead, like scene construction, because he's saying, I'll be back. And she's like, what do you mean you'll be back? We're in a helicopter. Where could you go? And he just jumps out of the helicopter. And she's like, whoa, 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 hold on. You can't just jump out of a helicopter after saying, I'll be back. You don't come back from jumping out of a helicopter.
I'll take it.
Awesome. I don't have anything myself to add, other than, the movie's not perfect. There's a few glitches in it as far as I'm concerned, but I do love it. I think it's a good movie. And I would have liked to have seen the rest of the trilogy play out. I really would have liked to have seen it.
Yeah, that post-credits scene is right up there with Skeletor popping out at the end of Masters of the Universe, right when Skynet comes back on at the end.
That credit cookie's not very good.
Oh yeah, what, they're shooting the freaking projectors of Skynet. Hey, I'm just a boy. You guys could kill things. And they're stupid stuff. They're not doing anything to Skynet when they're shooting those projections. They're just shooting like a TV screen.
Well, they just don't want him to talk to them. That's what he's annoying.
It's like
Skynet has an attitude. Skynet has an attitude. It's like it's screwing with them. It's like it's teasing them, saying like, you're just petty humans and like you can't do anything. And they're like, oh yeah, well obviously this annoys you, so I'm going to shoot another one of your projectors.
Yeah.
It is like Worf going to phase of the view screen with cues on it in Star Next Generation. That's stupid.
Nothing is that stupid.
All right.
Nothing in the world is that stupid.
Except for maybe John Connor in Terminator 3. Well, we have here what we call a Terminator impersonator count, guys. So, Max, I will ask you first. Can you tell us how many impersonations Terminators did in this film?
How many impersonations Terminators did in this film? Are we including, like, when another actor is playing the T-1000 or something, or John Connor becomes another person?
Yeah, so when the face is different or the voice is different.
Okay.
And I don't count John Connor, the T-5000, as an impersonation.
Okay, so we don't count that. All right. And Matt Smith being Skynet doesn't count. I can only think of one. I can only think of like right at the beginning when the T-1000 takes on Kyle.
Okay.
I got 3.
One for you, Max.
I got 3.
Okay, you got 3. What are they, Brandon?
So there's the T-1000 being Kyle. There is John Connor being the policewoman.
Yeah, the Homeland Security
agent. And then there's John Connor doing the voice of the security guard at Skynet.
I had no memory of that.
You got it.
Yeah.
So that's 3 for this movie, which brings us to a total of 12 Terminator impersonators.
I've had 5 movies of him asking me this question, so I was prepared to watch for it.
Yeah. So the time has come, guys. Out of 5 time displacement units, Max, what would you rate Terminator Genisys?
5.
Whoa.
5 out of 5.
Awesome. I love it.
Oh, my good Lord. You're crazier than I thought, man.
No. It's the thing is, I mean, the thing about me is that I don't care about ranking. So for me, the 5 is all about how much fun it is to try and make this movie make sense.
Fair enough. I cannot argue that this has been extremely entertaining to discuss this movie with y'all. But out of 5, I'm going to give this a 1.5.
Oh, you're a terrible human being.
it's as terrible as you think I am, Brandon. That's as terrible I think this movie is. So
I
that is
think you're
1.5
worse.
out of 5.
I give you half out of 5, Zach.
So what would you give it, Brandon?
4. I give this a 4. I think this movie is a whole heck of a lot of fun, and I'm gonna be having a good time when I make my rankings, and we'll talk about that in 3 weeks' time when I do my rankings. But yeah, I give this a 4 for sure.
Oh, goodness gracious.
I like this movie. I think this is a fun movie. And I would rather watch this than The Force Awakens any day.
Well, good for you guys. I'm happy for y'all. But finally, the last question we asked. The podcast is called Fanchise Fatigue. So, Max, we ask you, at this point in the franchise, do you think it's fatigued? Should they stop? Should they give up? Or should they keep going? Are you excited for more after this?
Not knowing that Dark Fate is coming. So
not knowing?
If you had just seen Genisys, you don't know that Dark Fate's coming. Is this franchise fatigued right now?
No. This is a situation in which if after this movie, my feeling would be like, well, they need to explain some stuff. And because it
really is The
I
Force
would also
Awakens.
worry
Terminator.
about the stuff that they would explain, because I would be concerned that they would screw up the explanations. So yeah, I want more, and I hope that the old Terminator in Dark Fate is Pops.
I think that'd be cool.
Well, he's pretty much going to serve the same function with old Arnold Schwarzenegger. But hey, remember he turned to a T-1000 at the end of this one, isn't it great?
That would have been cool.
Yeah, so for me, it's definitely fatigued. After this, I was like, you know what, guys? You're done. You've had 3 goes at this after Terminator 2 to try and do it right, and you failed. This kind of killed all kind of interest I had in this Terminator franchise. It was so disappointing because we got a hint of what I wanted, which is the future war, and they went on to this just nonsense of a film. So to me, it's definitely fatigued. And I'm not interested in seeing any more after this, but because we're contractually obligated to see more, I'm going to see Terminator Dark Fate here in a couple weeks, and we're going to talk about it. So.
Awesome. Yeah, and I definitely think it's not. I would have liked to have seen this trilogy play out. So, yeah, that's my take. Awesome. Max, thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate you taking the time to discuss this. It's been a whole heck of a lot of fun.
No problem.
You want to tell the listeners where they can find you?
I do a podcast with Mike, the name of which I don't remember.
Tracks on the line.
Oh, that's what it is. And I'm on Twitter at Max Hegel, and someday I should probably do a large series about time travel, because apparently I have to explain it all the time.
Yes, you should do time traveling movies with Max.
Yeah, or like a YouTube series where I just draw lines on a board and then look at the audience and go, you get it.
I would watch that. For sure. I would subscribe.
Zach, where can people find you when you're not trying to mate with Sarah Connor?
Well, that's a regular occurrence for me, but when I'm not doing that, you can find me on Twitter at MoronZach. That's MooreOnCach. Also host of my own podcast, Always Soul into Smallville. We talk about each and every episode of the Young Superman show over there. You can find us on Twitter at Always Smallville with 1 S. And finally, I'm a host of Trek FM's Standard Orbit. We talk about all things Captain Kirk and the Enterprise and the original series. You can find us on Twitter at Trek FM. So, Brandon, when you're not falling to a vat of liquid metal becoming a T-1000, where can people find you?
I'm on Twitter at Brandon Matella. Over on Trek FM, I've got a show called The Line with my friends Chrissy and Justin, and that's talking all about Star Trek Picard and the lead up to that new show. And you can find me on the Fandom Podcast Network with my friends Chris and Tom. We have a show called Good Evening, an Alfred Hitchcock podcast, and we're going through all of Alfred Hitchcock's films one at a time. Well, that's all we've got for you this week. At this time, we'd like to thank our wonderful executive producers, Ken Tripp and Tony Robinson. Without them, we couldn't do this show. We'd like to thank Zach Tripp for creating the wonderful theme song to our show. If you'd like to support us through Patreon, we'd greatly appreciate it. Just take a look for us, and you can get early releases of episodes. And is that it? Anything else I got to do, Zach? Is that my credits? That's all we got for you this week. Until next time, we'll be back.
Hasta la vista, baby.
This has been a production of MTMR Media Works.